Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Roll call. Markley.
Here.
Walters. Here. Philbrook.
Here.
Bynum. Walker. Here. Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia. Johnson.
Here.
Kane. Here. Holland.
Here. This evening, the invocation is being given by Reverend Mike May of St. Luke's Lutheran Church. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
In the light of recent events in Baltimore and other communities, Lord, we are in the midst of a time when repentance is indeed called for. We are a strange people. We spend years digging moats and building walls, and then we wonder what went wrong. We excuse ourselves and we blame and shame others. So tonight we cast ourselves on your mercy. Give us the grace not to walk by the light of our own wisdom, but to submit ourselves to your wisdom. Help us here in this room tonight, not just sometime in the future or some place when it seems right or more convenient, to highly resolve to serve one another in peace, to seek the common good and the good of others, to ease our steely grip on our own little piece of power that we think makes us more secure, or our own little niche in society that we think makes us special beyond your calling us to be your special people. Help us to walk with one another when it's uncomfortable and we're not getting it, but we're not letting go of each other either. Watch over us. Watch over our communication, our speech, even our private speech when we think nobody's listening but you are. And grant that we might grow as a people in this place right now, to be people who walk together in justice and peace, in mercy and grace. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Reverend May. I'd like to ask the clerk if there are any revisions to tonight's agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a blue sheet has been distributed. Under Section 9, Planning, Non-Consent Agenda, we have a new item, is item number 3, a travel request for Commissioner Walters to travel to Wichita, Kansas to attend the Kansas County Commissioners Association Annual Conference.
Thank you. All right, I will ask you to read the clerk to now read the planning and zoning statement, followed by items on the agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor Mark Holland, Commissioner Melissa Bynum at Large District 1, Commissioner Hal Walker at Large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann Mugia, District 3, is unable to be here, Commissioner Harold Johnson Jr., District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has 3 options. Number 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Number 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. And number 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the Planning and Zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. Once petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 5 minutes to state your views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any members of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on the agenda.
Are there any disclosures? Let the record show there are no disclosures listed.
I will now read the consent agenda. Change of zone application, item number 1, 3084, Michael L. Kane. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District for an accessory building at 2947 North 91st Street, recommended for approval. Special use applications, item number 1, SP 2015-2, Hoye Salazar. Special use permit for live entertainment in conjunction with existing restaurant at 151 South 18th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 2, SP 2015-10, Andrea Hulsey. Renewal of a special use permit for a kennel for 4 dogs at 3322 North 128th Court, recommended for approval for 5 years. Item 3, SP 2015-11, Chuck Schlittler with Downtown Shareholders, renewal of a special use permit for a banner program in the Downtown Improvement District, intersections of 5th, 7th, and 18th of Minnesota Avenue, 7th and 8th of State Avenue, 5th and 7th of Armstrong Avenue, 7th and N Avenue, 7th and Sandusky Avenue, and 7th and Washington Avenue, recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 4, SP 2015-12, Hilltop Saddle Club, renewal of a special use permit for a trailer for monthly meetings and to keep supplies at 5035 Muncie Drive, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item number 5, SP 2015-15, Curtis Peterson with Posanelli, special use permit for signage for Legends Auto Mall at 1930 North 98th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Vacation application, item 1, RW and A 2015-2, Argentine Neighborhood Development Association, vacation of right-of-way in an alley at 1404 South 37th Street, recommended for approval. Those are all items on consent agenda.
All right, before I ask if anyone would like to remove an item, for the record, I would like to state that the first application of Michael L. Kane is no relation to our commissioner, so therefore does not cause a conflict of interest. But since it's the same name except for the middle initial,
Correct.
I thought we should clarify that for the record. Is there anyone on the commission or in attendance tonight who would like to remove an item from the Planning and Zoning consent agenda? Any item not removed will be carried based on the recommendation of the commission with a single vote. Mr. Walker?
Item C, I need to recuse myself on that vote, so I ask that it be set aside and separately.
We will set aside item C1.
Move for approval for all remaining items?
Second.
Let the record show I see no one else moving to set an item forward. It is properly moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum. Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, that brings us to item C1. Let the record show Commissioner Walker is recusing himself. Is there a motion?
Move for approval for remaining item on the list?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 8-0. That motion carries.
All right. We have an item on the Planning and Zoning non-consent agenda. Before we get to that item, I would like to recognize a fellow elected official who is here. Mr. Chuck Stites with the Edwardsville City Council is here. Welcome, Mr. Stites. All right, we have an item on Planning and Zoning non-consent agenda. I will turn this over to staff for presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett, would you like to present your application?
Hi, my name's Ben Barrett. I live in Overland Park. This is I'm petitioning for a renewal of a special, for a renewal of a special use permit for a house that I own on State Line Road, 4428 State Line Road, and we affectionately call it the Hacker House. I run a program out of there called Homes for Hackers. And 2 years ago, I petitioned to have a special use permit on the house so that we could run this program out of the house, that my wife and I own the house. The purpose of this program is to bring new tech startups to Kansas City. And 2 years ago, we started the program to take advantage of Google Fiber coming to Kansas City. And the idea was to offer tech startups free rent and Google Fiber if they were willing to attempt to move their startup to Kansas City. That was 2 years ago. The special use permit has expired and it's time to renew it, which is why I'm here today. And I'd like to continue carrying on the program exactly like it's been done pretty much. Some things that I mentioned 2 years ago, but I don't know that they were part of the official written record at the time, but I do want to make sure they're explicit this time. So it's a free program. If you get accepted into the program, you get completely free rent, free utilities. You show up, you move into the house, you just pay for your own food. It's the way we're able to do that is one of the rooms of the house we rent on Airbnb.com. That's a bed and breakfast website. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So we rent one of the rooms of the house on there. That helps supplement the free ride we give other entrepreneurs. And then also some of the people that return to the house, so each startup that comes to the house, they get 3 months of free rent. It's very limited to 3 months. And then after those 3 months, they often have the option to extend their stay and pay rent, or they try to find more kind of formal accommodations elsewhere. But oftentimes they choose to return to the house and pay rent, and that also subsidizes the free ride we're giving some individuals. So I think that's about it. Am I forgetting anything? Okay. Any questions, I guess? What do you normally do at this point?
There may be questions. What we'll do now is we will open up the public hearing
Okay.
and invite people to have an opportunity to speak. At the close of the public hearing, you as the applicant will have an opportunity to respond and make a summative comment.
Okay.
And then we will turn it over to the commission. They may have questions for you or for staff. So if you would
Okay.
stand by, that would be great.
Yep, sounds good. So public, then I respond, then commission, then I respond, then a final decision.
You don't necessarily get to respond to the commission unless they ask you a direct question.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'll now open up the public hearing, and we'll invite proponents and opponents of this proposal. If you are a proponent, if you are in favor of this special use permit, I would invite you to come forward at this time and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Anyone in favor?
I'm kind of a yes, but speaker. My name is Jane Vogel. I live at 4411 Cambridge Street. Thank you, and I see our new commissioner up there. Hello, Commissioner Bynum. Well, thank you all for taking the time to listen to some of my concerns. I also think they're some of the concerns of the majority of the residents in Spring Valley. The Spring Valley neighborhood is a residential neighborhood with a few commercial areas on its outlying edges or on its perimeters. We are on the east side bounded by state line, on the west side by Rainbow Street, by the north side by 43rd, and by the south by County Line. The vast majority of the homes in Spring Valley are residential, and they are zoned residential, all of them. And they've been used as homes by people raising families for the past 90 years. We are an old and we are an established neighborhood. Now, I am in support of the special use permit for the 4428 State Line home, Ben's house, as we fondly call it. But I want to be clear that I'm not in support of any additional special use permits being issued in Spring Valley, and that's why this is kind of a yes, I'm in support of Ben, but it has some caveats with it. The reason I am generally supportive of continuing Ben's special use permit.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
Move for an extension of time so she.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I had only 1
Move
minute.
for an extension
Well,
of time.
you have 3 minutes, so go ahead and finish your time, and then if you would like more,
Okay.
we can grant you more.
Is because he has been an active and visible landlord. He has indeed made repairs and improvements of the property, and he has shown a capability to listen to his neighbors, and I think that in and of itself deserves a lot of applause right there. However, I still remain concerned about some might take renewal of his special use permit at 4428 State Line as a precedent. And so people can say, oh, well, that one got it, so why can't I buy a house and get a special use permit that allows external business use of a residential home? And the reason I'm concerned is because really, I don't think most special use permits add or benefit a residential neighborhood. It doesn't, homes being used for external businesses surely do not increase the quality of my residential life. I think in your packages you may have seen a petition that was started because of a huge concern of the special use permit that was being asked for on Cambridge Street within the neighborhood and among the houses on that street. That was in the zoning package. And I think it kind of speaks really well, all the comments as to why the residential life is harmed when you have a situation like that. The other thing is I've heard it claimed from external investors.
Your time is up, ma'am.
How much more time do you need?
I just need 1 more minute.
Your
I want to
motion?
address this other.
It's been moved and
Thank
seconded.
you.
All in favor, say aye.
I've heard it claimed a lot, and it dismays me that from people buying our houses and using them for external businesses, that they've improved our properties, that they've bought distressed houses and improved our properties. But what they've actually done is they've bought fixer-upper houses so quickly that young couples, people that don't have high incomes, they don't even have the opportunity to see these houses because they get purchased so fast, and so they don't have an opportunity to become a homeowner because these great bargains get swallowed up really fast when usage is not is intended to be not residential. And with that, I will end. Again, I'd like to reiterate that Ben's situation, in my mind, he is to be applauded for his honesty, his willingness to be a good neighbor. even his concept when Google Fiber first came out. And so I am in favor, and I think most of the neighborhood, I know most of my neighbors, are indeed in favor of his special use permit being renewed. But I do think there's an overwhelming concern about the special use permit usage being approved for additional homes in the neighborhood. Thank you so much for extending my time. Good to see y'all.
Thank you.
And hope you can come to some good situation.
Okay, any other proponents who would like to speak in favor of this special use permit?
I'll keep this quick. Obviously, this issue hit the front page of the Kansas City Star. So,
Your
I
name and
think-
city, please?
Adam Arredondo. I manage the building at 4436 State Line Road. It's an issue that's got a lot of attention, and I just wanted to, along with Rob and Jason Banks and others in this city, we've spent and will continue to spend a lot of time to make sure this issue doesn't spiral out of control. We've been working with our neighbors, and it was something that kind of got away from us at the beginning, and now are obviously very aware of it. Obviously, what Ben's doing has brought a lot of talent to Kansas City, Kansas, and what we're trying to balance is the marriage of bringing jobs and driving the economy with preserving the quality of our neighborhoods. And so just want to let you know we're actively doing that. We now have a 501c3 that the board is actively responsible and accountable to what happens there. And just to let you guys know that we're actively working to keep any of that tension from escalating. So that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in favor?
Evening. My name is Bill Seekins, 4406 State Line Road. I'd like to also speak in favor of Ben and his group and all that they've done for not only bringing individuals in here, giving them the opportunity to advance their businesses, but to once again to continue the American dream of starting out and trying to be a Steve Jobs or trying to be, Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, there's so many different things to this. And like I said, they've gone out of their way to try to communicate with the neighbors once the information was, I guess, made known to them, to give them a greater understanding of what the problems were. One of the other problems that were parking issues, which was actually from a business that's no longer even there. So much of that parking has been removed as an issue. The only other thing that may have been kind of an issue and was brought up the last meeting was about the busing issue that was brought up about buses pulling into the area. These are not, and should be understood, this is not a party bus. This is not groups of people coming in to look over things. These are students coming in from different high schools. They're business classes. They are MBAs coming in to actually just look at their homes and their operation to get a better understanding of how to bring about a startup, the kind of things that they do. Like I said, then they're all chaperoned. They have groups with them. They post ahead of time to give everyone heads up. Hey, on such and such date between 11 and 12, we're going to have this group with this many people. This is what they're here for. And just to give everyone an opportunity, if they have an issue, to speak to them and let them know we don't want them in the area, or we want to basically be chaperoned and make sure that they're taken care of. So it's not as if we just have groups wandering through the area. But I just wanted to make sure that was known, because that was a problem the last time we were here. Thank you.
Other proponents?
Jean Flaherty, 4515 Cambridge, Kansas City, Kansas. I do better if I'm scripted here. So because of the spread of the Startup Village affiliated businesses on the residential block of Cambridge, and because of Ben's request for a digital shed on the property, I was originally opposed to the renewal of his state line request. However, Ben did listen to neighborhood concerns, and he modified his proposal by dropping the digital shed. Also, his house is on a mixed-use block near two commercially zoned KCSV businesses, and I do believe that Ben stayed true to what I understood to be the intent of the Hacker House, allowing individuals in the early stages of business development to live in a collaborative environment with access to high-speed Google Fiber, mentors, and business connections. That was also my understanding of the intent of the Startup Village being in our neighborhood, to help individuals get a start while networking with others. However, businesses, not individuals, moved into single-family homes, resulting in 4 Cambridge houses having multiple businesses operating out of them. The most recent addition is an owner-occupied home, excuse me, but the other 3 houses have non-resident owners and operated businesses staffed by daytime employees. A 2014 article reported that Nexus HQ, business at 4427 Cambridge, had 6 employees and an intern, had been in business 3 to 4 years, had 50 clients, and was past the startup phase. A 3-year-old business with 9 employees, Leap It, moved from commercial property on State Line to a house at 4437 Cambridge. And 4462 Cambridge had 3 daytime businesses operating out of it. Excuse me, my allergies are getting to me here. This influx of KCSV businesses, staffed by non-residents, utilizing a Monday through Friday work model, has a negative impact on those of us who actually call Spring Valley home. These houses are clearly not functioning as typical single-family rental homes,
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
nor are they typical work-from-home arrangements. Because Google Fiber was first available in our neighborhood and was only offered as a residential service, I understand why these small businesses want it to be in Spring Valley. However, small business product is now available. I've been informed that the Nexus HQ and Leap It will be moving from the residential houses. If the property owners continue to be associated with Startup Village, it's my hope that they will follow Ben's example and rent to individuals rather than businesses, and do so in full compliance with the rental zoning and licensing laws of Wyandotte County. So tonight I am asking that you consider approving the 4428 line special use permit, but consider denying any future special use permit requests for established businesses wanting to operate out of single-family homes on the residential streets of Cambridge, Eden, and Francis in the Spring Valley neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
My name is Meredith Barrett, and I live in Overland Park as well. And I'm Ben's wife, and I just would like to bring this bit of information to your ears, is that I know I am biased because I am his wife, but although this is a lovely and established neighborhood, before we bought this house sat vacant for 2 years, and that wasn't an uncommon thing to see in this neighborhood, and I want that to be brought out. And also that the original intent for houses like the one we own is that these are business startups. And startups grow fast sometimes, and when that happens, it happens quickly. But truly, our intent is in our home to have people who are pre-business, who are coming up with ideas, and doing that at a ground level, so these are not established businesses yet, although we hope that they will be and improve the community. And the thing that is really beautiful, I think, is that these guys in our house, I can only speak from what I know from our house, is that they really have been members of this community. One of the hackers in the hacker house is very handy. He helped our direct neighbor on one side with cleaning her gutters. And I know both neighbors on either side of our home are very positive about the experience that they've had. I mean, basically, we've got some smart guys who are talented working on laptops during the day. And so that's the situation that we've got in our house. And, part of them integrating into this includes these residents too. We do want to be a community member.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
And be good neighbors too. So I just wanted to bring that forward.
Thank you. Any other proponents who would like to speak in favor of this application? At this time, I'll turn it over to opponents. Anyone who is opposed to this application would invite you to come forward at this time. Anyone opposed? Let the record show no one is coming forward to oppose this application. We'll now close the public hearing. Mr. Barrett, would you like to make any summative comment?
There were just two comments that I wanted to make crystal clear for those of you that might not be intimately familiar with the issue at hand. But you know, a lot of the comments pertain to the greater Kansas City Startup Village as a whole, of which my house, our house, the Hacker House, is affiliated with, I guess you would say. So two of those things, you know, Adam, my friend, mentioned about the 501c3. That pertains to the KCSV, not Homes for Hackers. So I don't think that was made crystal clear. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. And also the Startup Village in general is where a lot of these tour buses with students are coming to visit the area. That's not solely directed at the Hacker House, although they do visit the Hacker House on their way around 2 or 3 of the locations. But it's not like I'm the one organizing the tour buses myself. So there's kind of a greater issue and a smaller issue, and I wanted to make sure there was that clarification.
Thank you. All right. We'll now close the public hearing, and we'll turn it over to commissioners. Commissioner Kane.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we appreciate the neighbors coming out and saying that there were some concerns. Landlord listened. We don't have a lot of that. We have a lot of absentee landlords that they can't listen because they're not here. So we appreciate you folks bringing that up. And we also appreciate that you're watching the area, because each special use permit is different. Just because we grant one for this person doesn't mean we're going to grant one for the next person. Just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. I just want to take the opportunity to find out what is the difference between the nature of the thing being proposed and an action that was withdrawn, the hacker shed. What is that? What's the difference between that and?
Let's let the staff answer that.
Commissioner, the Home for Hacker that's before you this evening, it has the Airbnb, which is bed and breakfast, which requires a special use permit on its own. And they also have people that might come in to help them during the day. So it would be people coming from off-site to on-site to work there. The other special use permit they withdrew because they're going to operate within the definition of family and the business ordinances of the community. So they will have up to 5 people that live there and work by themselves in that home. The Supreme Court says anyone is a family, 5 or more unrelated individual, or up to 5 unrelated individuals can be a family, and they will operate under that definition, and so they would not need a special use permit. And so that's how they're going to operate that particular home in the future.
Right.
Oh, I thought you were talking. Oh, well then let Ben answer the shed. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Okay, the shed sorry, might be a little static or something. The shed portion was an idea I had that, you know, Spring Valley neighborhood already has a physical tool shed, like a community tool shed, you know, and they're quite popular. And there's like a monthly fee for our particular neighborhood tool shed. You know, it's like $20, and you can, you know, go in and swap out tools and stuff. And I thought, wow, well, we have Google Fiber. How cool would it be to have a digital tool shed where we have a little shed and it has Google Fiber in there, and we already have, like the Hacker House has a bunch of Ethernet cables, Cat6 cable. We probably have 400 feet of Ethernet cable. We have a bunch of old computers, old monitors and stuff, and we could have like a digital shed that had some monitors and things like that people could check out, but also like you could have access to Google Fiber right there. And you could, you know, it would be an office in the shed. That idea was a little bit too disruptive, and I think people thought, you know, a lot of people would be visiting the house to come to this shed, which, you know, I did not think that was the case, but after hearing the feedback from the neighbors, I decided to withdraw that portion. So I have a shed on the property. It's empty. It's a shed. It's an 8x10 shed. You know, it's not a building or anything. It's a shed. It's from Home Depot. It's a shed.
And it's not a digital shed.
I'm sorry?
It's not a digital shed.
Not yet.
Okay.
I wanted it to be, but never got there. Yeah.
Move for approval.
All right, it has been moved for approval and seconded. I do want to make a comment too before we vote. I feel like the communication between the Startup Village and the Spring Hill Neighborhood Association has been very good of late, and I want to commend all of you for that effort. And I don't think Spring Hill had hoped to be a national destination tourist site. Spring Valley. Spring Valley did not hope to be a national destination, tourist destination. Startup Village has been enormously successful and has received national and international attention for what it's done, and that's not been without tension. And so we very much appreciate the communication that's going on. Jason Banks in my office is actively involved in this. Greg Kendall from Economic Development. Our goal is to have these companies, when they're ready to move to Kansas City, Kansas, and stay and grow in Kansas City, Kansas. We absolutely want that. Commissioner Murguia is engaged in this, and myself. So we're going to continue to work on this, continue to pull together people to make sure that we continue to foster a rich startup entrepreneurial environment in Kansas City, Kansas. We very much don't want to lose the momentum of that. And we also have community members who have a right to the investment that they've made in their personal property that we want to value also. And so that balance is tricky, but it's worth talking about. So I just want to commend all of you for your work together to come to a resolution on this. And I trust that this dialogue can be a model for future conversations as well. We're very proud of Startup Village, and we're very proud of Spring Valley. And so we want to make sure that we protect all of those interests there. So thank you again for all of that. Roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0. That motion carried.
All right, that concludes our planning and zoning portion of our meeting. We do have non-planning and zoning items, non-consent. The first item is a resolution intent to issue IRBs for Kansas Avenue project. We do need to open a public hearing. So at this time, Mr. Bach, do you want to make any preliminary comments before that?
I believe we can turn this over to Mr. Goff with our Economic Development Department. He will present the project, and then you can go for your public hearing.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor, Administrator Bach, Commissioners. Marlon Goff with Economic Development. Also want to introduce Brent Miles behind me with North Point Development. So tonight we're here with two action items: to conduct a public hearing, consider a resolution of intent to issue revenue bonds in association with this project, and the fixed pilot structure. Okay. Bear with me. You know what? I'm just going to give this back to you. So before we dive into, the structure of the fixed pilot, as Tim pulled this back up, I thought it would be good to orient the members of the audience to the proposed site. So in the foreground, you see outlined in red, is actually at the intersection of South 51st Street and Kansas Avenue. And you can see just to the south there, the rail yards for the Burlington Northern Railroad. So the site actually contains 3 separate parcels. And this project will entail the acquisition of those 2 structures, one of which is vacant, and it totals approximately 369,000 square feet. To the west of the site is the Fleming Foods Company. Next slide. So again, this is just a panned out view of that same site that we just viewed previously. Next slide. Thank you. So a quick project overview. This is an acquisition project again, $18 million total investment, and a substantial portion of this project entails acquisition and improvement of commercial equipment. The company is in negotiations with a potential tenant, and this project is proposed to result in 50 new jobs with an average annual salary of $36,000. Next slide. So, as part of the Kansas law requirements for tax abatement, we're required to, again, conduct a public hearing when we're considering a fixed pilot structure. So our objective, if you'll note in the previous slide, where we have the 3 separate parcels, was really to combine that site into one fixed pilot payment, where the developer or the property owner could now incorporate that into his lease rate and kind of know what his annual tax obligations are going to look like. I would note that that pilot payment represents 100% of the taxable value that we anticipate will result from this project. And in addition to that, there's an annual escalator component that we've negotiated. We feel like for the taxing entities, it provides, a reliable forecast of revenues. And again, for the property owner, hopefully they're making those annual payments not under protest. Next slide. Again, as part of the statutory requirements, we're required to have a third-party independent cost-benefit analysis. The other taxing entities provided with the public notice for this meeting. And so this slide here illustrates in year 1, based on the current property taxes collected for 2014 in year 1, this will result in a net taxable increase of approximately $42,000. Typically, municipal entities would look to achieve a cost-benefit ratio of 1.3 or greater. So as you can see in this illustration, each of the taxing entities that will show up on a property tax bill for this site have certainly achieved that benchmark along with some healthy return on investment. Next slide. So with that, again, the action items we have before you tonight is to consider approval of that resolution of intent to issue the bonds and in the associated fixed pilot. Again, Mr. Miles and myself will certainly be able to stand for any questions or comments, but that'll conclude my presentation.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak in favor of this proposal, please come forward at this time. Let the record show no one is coming forward to speak in favor. Anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this proposal, please come forward at this time. Let the record show no one is speaking in opposition. We will now close the public hearing. Do we need, I'll ask legal, do we need 2 motions? Just one? I also want to say this has been a policy of this commission for the last several years. This issue of doing 100% tax abatement and then coming back with a payment in lieu of taxes to capture that full value with an escalator is a great benefit. There have been many times where we've been frustrated with economic development projects that groups have received incentives and then come back and sued us to lower the property value, and this prevents that from happening. And this has been an innovative tool that our commission has been aggressive about, and North Point has been an active user of this, and we appreciate this. The other thing that's important, this is a part of our industrial sector that we really need to keep an eye on in this Turner area. This is an area that's been in transition with the intermodal moving out, and the opportunity to turn these properties and keep them in active use is very important to us. And so this is another part of our community that needs investment. So I'm very excited about this project overall. It's been properly moved and seconded. Roll call.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker. Aye. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
That brings us to our next item, which is a resolution around the Legends 14 Theater. I am going to ask for full presentation on this, primarily because I think it's informative for the public. Not everyone is aware of this project in terms of how it's structured, and I think this is good news for our community as well. Mr. Bach?
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. As I said at the standing committee meeting, I think this marks somewhat of an historic occasion for us. Having been part of the project when we first started working on the Village West area, in 2001, February, we announced 5 projects that we were looking to bring into our community as part of that project. They were the Cabela's, Nebraska Furniture Mart, Red Development, which brought in the Legend Shopping Center. We announced an Applebee's coming into the area, as well as a new theater. At the time of those 5 announcements, all of which came forward, the one for the theater did change, and the developer we had working with was no longer able to move forward with this. We found that to be one of the probably most difficult tasks of finding a way to bring a movie theater into our community. And as a community or a county of 160,000 people, not to have a movie theater, it was definitely a priority of our governing body that we would find a way to bring one of these into this new project area. Through this process, we found a way that through the unified government's ownership of the theater and through the use of the STAR bonds that were generated in the project area, in particularly relation to the Cabela's project coming in, we were able to pay for the building of the theater and its operation within the project area over the years that it's been in operation. It started construction in 2004, I believe, opened in 2005, and has operated on its own project revenues ever since that time. So the unified government has not had to subsidize that theater with any kind of general fund dollars throughout the time period. It's gone through upgrades to keep up with the digital age and such like that. Now we've reached a point in time where we believe we can move the theater, which the only way to get it going was our ownership back at the time we started the project into the private sector. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Goff to come back forward and offer his presentation about a little bit more history on the theater and the current conditions of it and what we're asking to do.
Good evening again. Marlon Goff with Economic Development. This time I have some help. Lou Levins here with our finance department, and also Todd LaSala, counsel with the Stinson Leonard Street Law Firm. So Legends Theater, and I'll just piggyback on much of what Doug just outlined. It's a 129,000 square foot building, 14 screens, just under 3,000 seats, VIP lounge, and also a couple of party rooms that are available for lease. This is an outline of the parcel. It's 8.6 acres, and as you can see, the theater really anchors the Legends Mall site. It also kind of gives you a picture of this shared parking concept that, you know, kind of goes underway at the Legends. I know we do some really creative things when we have games at sporting or race weekends, but essentially the unified government owns the real property, the theater, all of the screens, equipment, permanent fixtures, and furniture. And it'll be included in the purchase. So a quick snapshot of some milestones that's happened during the 10-year period of our ownership. And particularly, the management agreement kind of outlines the parties and how the theater's actually been managed and operated. And then we'll see some things later with respects to the supplemental agreement and the relationship, or essentially some of the options that the owner and operator of the Legends Mall, that being Red Development, has as a party to this agreement. One thing not noted on this slide is, I think in July of last year, we were able to refinance the bonds associated to take advantage of some interest rate savings, but all of this leading up to this outcome for us to position the theater for sale. Quick recap of some operating highlights. So as part of the monthly management reports, you know, we evaluate how the theater's doing in the KC market. And on average, the Legends 14 has been positioned 6th through 8th out of 33 movie houses in the theater. So it's been performing really well. And especially considering we're approaching the summer season, which traditionally has been really good for the industry. A lot of the blockbuster releases. I actually had some correspondence with the general manager this morning as they're gearing up for the new Avengers release on Friday. So it's a good time, as Doug mentioned. This is the theater's well positioned, and we feel it's really marketable. So with that, I'm going to transition and turn the presentation over to Lou. He's prepared this slide to kind of give us an overview of what a potential sale could look like.
Thanks, Marlon, Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Bach. Certainly a primary objective of selling the theater is to cover any outstanding obligations that we have associated with the theater. And with that intent, I prepared this analysis. The number we're looking at as a sale price is $8.8 million. That closing we would anticipate occurring in 4 to 5 months, and we have various operating accounts associated with the theater. We're estimating at the time of closing we'll have at least $400,000 in those accounts, so our resources are at the $9.2 million level. What we would do with that, what expenses we would have, our outstanding debt on our building loan that we refinanced last year, approximately $6.8 million. Our equipment finance, and that was for the digital upgrade and the 3D upgrade, occurred in 2011. Our current balance on that loan is $275,000. Our management agreement that we entered into with Phoenix in 2005 requires, if we sell the theater, a termination fee of $1 million. And then the next few items are just estimates of final costs related to closing, any outstanding property taxes that we would have to pay, we've built in a contingency to cover any transitional costs or operating shortfalls that could occur over the next 4 to 5 month period, and then specific closing costs related to title work, legal work. We put in an estimate of that, and so essentially what we're showing is that under these assumptions we would cover, we would still have a balance, and hopefully that number would be greater depending on what the final contingency costs are, or those transitional costs related to closing. I can answer any questions on this slide. If not, I think Todd's here just to review the contract that we're looking at.
Thank you, Lou, Mayor, Commissioners, Doug. There's an executive summary, I believe, in your packet that highlights the nature of the sale and some of the documents that are relevant. I'll just hit a couple of points at a high level. I would begin by saying the sale of the theater is fairly unique in that the unified government not only owns the land and the building, you also own all of the equipment, the screens, the seats, the projection equipment. It is really an all-in sale because you own all of that, and it's purely been operated by Phoenix pursuant to a management agreement. That management agreement was entered into in February of 2004, and among other things, it says that you have a right to terminate that management agreement in your sole discretion if you choose to. If we opt to do this and sell the theater to a third party, we will need to terminate the Phoenix management agreement, and here's how that works. Phoenix would be entitled to a breakup fee, a termination fee that is equal to $1 million. You would pay the $1 million. It would be built into the sale price so that you could pay Phoenix to terminate that agreement for convenience. If we do that, it takes 120 days to terminate the agreement. So you would give Phoenix notice, then they have 30 days to let you know about those transitional costs that Lou was speaking of. And after you receive those transitional cost numbers, we have 45 days from that to make a decision about whether we want to go forward and irrevocably commit to terminating that agreement and paying the $1 million. At the end of that 45 days, you could choose not to. you could rescind the termination and leave Phoenix in place. So your purchase agreement with any third party would be carefully coordinated so that at the time you got to that 45-day, go, no-go date, you will make sure that your purchaser is fully ready to go and committed. And we would also ask that purchaser to put $1 million in escrow so that you're covered in the event that the sale for some reason falls through. So that's sort of how that termination agreement would work. Additionally, I would point out it's an as-is, where-is sale. You wouldn't make any representations or warranties. You'd give a purchaser a long time to come in, take a look at the property, and then based on their due diligence, either buy it or not. The city's not going to guarantee the condition of the property or anything like that. And I believe Marlon and Lou alluded to rights that Red Development has pursuant to a supplemental agreement. As you all know, this sits right in the middle of the Legends Shopping Center. So Red cared tremendously about how this thing was positioned. They also have what are called common area maintenance expenses that are shared by all of the various owners within the Legends and the tenants. That's true of the theater as well. But in 2004, when the theater was ramping up, we went and negotiated with Red to reduce those common area maintenance expenses and even provide for some leniency as the revenue built up. And so Red was fairly accommodating about that, and that's what the supplemental agreement is primarily about. However, in exchange for that, Red really wanted to know that if the theater would ever sell to anybody other than Phoenix, they wanted to make sure that they had a seat at that table. So there are options to purchase that exist in favor of Red Development, a right of first offer and rights of first refusal. So the point is that if we choose to sell the theater to anybody but Phoenix, we are really obligated to go to Red Legacy first and offer the theater to them for sale. So we will be required to do that by the supplemental agreement, and so Red will have the first crack at buying that theater. I would also stand for any questions if there are any.
All right. Commissioner Walker.
Mr. LaSalle, what are these transitional costs?
It's likely to be, you may have to pay to terminate some of the operational contracts with vendors. We don't know a ton about that, but we have talked to Phoenix, and it's estimated that it's less than $100,000, probably in the $50,000 range.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. LaSalle. I
Good
just
evening.
heard something that I didn't pick up on at the standing committee meeting about this. This body would have a second opportunity after tonight to review a proposed sale. And I can't recall what the condition was or the circumstance that would trigger that.
Let's
You're saying,
let Mr. Bach answer that.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I believe if you approve what is set out before you tonight, then this would be a transaction that if I were to go to find a buyer that fulfilled these terms, I would complete this transaction. So you would be giving me authority to complete this transaction as it's set forth. Todd, now you started to shake your head a different way. I mean, if there is some other part of the transaction, if we change it, you want to go ahead and speak to that?
Well, sure. The two next steps, I think, would be, you're right, we would enter into a purchase agreement pursuant to the terms that we're walking through tonight. I guess the other place that I was thinking of is at some point after you get this transition cost, there is a second decision to be made about whether you're going to terminate Phoenix and go forward. But frankly, we will deal with that in the purchase agreement. And assuming that you have a purchaser that you're under contract with that is committed to going forward and is going to put that $1 million in escrow, I think we would proceed.
Yeah, so I would say approval of this tonight, you are giving me authority to go out and complete the sale.
okay, and I'm fine with that. It was just something that I heard tonight that I didn't hear, not that you didn't say it, but appreciate on Monday.
I will also comment too that from the standing committee, we have taken to work in deed restriction issues regarding the operation of the theater and being a movie theater, as was suggested in that meeting by you, Commissioner. I also want to note, just for the record, that Phoenix has been an outstanding operator for us of this theater. So reaching out to them. That was an excellent choice by us, and over the years, they have served our community and served this theater well. It looks like a brand-new theater after being in operation for 10 years, so I certainly want to make that note that they have done an excellent job for us. And that's all I have.
I appreciate the deed restrictions because, as you said, that's a major benefit to a community our size. So it's good to have some assurance it will continue for some period to remain a theater. Thank you.
Commissioner McKiernan.
I would move to approve the resolution as presented.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. I see no further comments. Roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That brings us to our final item.
To approve the travel request.
Roll call.
Roll call. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
That concludes our meeting. We'll now recess to executive session upstairs. I will entertain a motion for 20 minutes for purposes of labor negotiations and security.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are recessed.